You finally got the courage to go to a native speaker and start a conversation in Spanish. But things can go wrong. He or she is speaking too fast, is saying something that you don't understand, or you want to express a certain thing and you don't know how. Don't worry, that's what we are going to cover in today's lesson. We're going to learn some useful questions and sentences to use when starting a conversation to avoid getting stuck. Hola, soy Alejandro, bienvenido a Key Spanish, and this is a new lesson of our course for complete beginners here on YouTube. It's the fourth lesson of Module 0 in which we are just learning some very basics to get started with Spanish. After covering the greetings and doing some listening practice, hearing about my personality preferences, and a lesson about the alphabet, now it's time to learn how to ask for clarification in Spanish. As we said, these are a couple of sentences, a few sentences that will be useful to not get stuck in a conversation with a native speaker. As we mentioned, we have a playlist here on YouTube where all of these lessons organized and as well as the future ones will be published there. So make sure to check that playlist if you haven't already. Let's get started with these important questions. The first one is, ¿qué significa? ¿Qué significa deletrear? The answer to this question is to spell. ¿Qué significa is what does something mean? Significar, you can think of significance in English, meaning, significant, meaningful. So, ¿qué significa deletrear is what does deletrear mean, which is spelling, which you already know because in the last lesson about the alphabet, we learned about spelling and deletrear. So that's the first thing you know, right? You need to know how to ask what something means when you don't know. Now, you want to say something. You want to say to leave, but you don't know how. So you should ask, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice to leave? So, vivir. Vivir is to live. ¿Cómo se dice is how is it said? The se dice is impersonal. We're not going to get into that now. You are a beginner and it's not the time to learn impersonal structures for Spanish. But just be aware that when you say se dice is how is it said to live. Another example is ¿cómo se dice subscribe to my channel in español? Well, suscríbete a mi canal. Y that's what you need to do. Subscribe to our channel. Let's see one more scenario. So the person is speaking fast and you don't understand. So you could say, ¿cómo dices? ¿Puedes repetir, por favor? Oh, ¿cómo dices is what? What do you say? Can you repeat, please? ¿Puedes repetir, por favor? Let's see one more scenario. You are trying to spell something and you don't know how. Again, we saw that in the last lesson. ¿Cómo se escribe vino? ¿Con B o con V? How do you spell? How does one spell again this impersonal that we saw with ¿cómo se dice? It's the same here. So, ¿cómo se escribe? How does one or how is it spelled? Vino. With B or V? Bueno, vino se escribe con V. And one more scenario is the person is saying, el otro día vi a Elena y estaba con su hijo mayor. Very fast. Estaba con su hijo mayor. So you need her to slow down. You would say, ¿puedes hablar más despacio, por favor? ¿Puedes hablar más despacio, por favor? Puedes is can you, from the verb poder. Poder, to be able to, can. So, hablar más despacio. This range is more slow, right? You say, in English, you would say more slowly. Well, literally, this is more slow, please. Can you speak slower, please? So these are a couple of situations that are very common in conversation. Again, you need to say how to say something, what something means, or how something is spelled, to ask someone to repeat, or to speak slower. So now let's do a quick recap of these sentences. Again, remember the interactive nature of our course we mentioned in the course introduction of the series. So I will expect you to participate and to answer my prompts because we don't want lazy students here. So no seas vago, don't be lazy, no seas vago, and try to answer the prompts, okay? So the first sentence that we learned is when you don't know what something means and you need to ask, what would you ask? ¿Qué significa? ¿Qué significa deletrear? What does deletrear mean? What about the situation where you don't know how to say something? What is it? You say, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? Pause the video if you need time to think, okay? But ¿cómo se dice? How is it said? Dice is the verb decir, to say. Well, to live se dice vivir. You didn't understand what someone said, so ¿cómo dices? You need to ask this person to repeat. So you would say, ¿puedes repetir, por favor? ¿Puedes repetir? Can you repeat, please? You don't know how to spell something? Then it would be, ¿cómo se escribe? ¿Cómo se escribe vino? ¿Con B o con V? Yeah, you need to ask for clarification about the spelling of a word. And the last one would be, someone is speaking too fast, you need this person to slow down. What would you ask her? ¿Puedes hablar más despacio, por favor? ¿Puedes hablar más despacio? These are probably the most useful questions you need to know to clarify things and keep the conversation going and just avoid getting stuck. But there are two more I want to give you as a quick bonus. And because you are a complete beginner, you are just starting out, it's likely that you cannot even hold a conversation, right? It's very normal. So the first thing you need to say when starting to speak with a native speaker would be, well, lo siento, no hablo muy bien español. Lo siento, no hablo muy bien español. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish very well. And if someone is willing to help you out and just speak slower and repeat and clarify things, a good sentence for you to say would be, gracias por tu paciencia. Gracias por tu paciencia. Thank you for your patience. And those are all the sentences, questions I wanted to share with you in today's lesson. But you need to memorize them, right? You need to learn them, to practice them. It's not enough to watch a video and listen. And that's why, as we mentioned several times, we have our lesson notes as part of this course. For this particular lesson, you will find the slides where you can check these questions again, and also a table with vocabulary and the translations so you can easily reference them. But for this particular case, when you are learning full sentences, we also recommend using some kind of flashcard apps to put this in your long-term memory. And that's why we have the Spanish Beginner Kit, where among many other resources to learn vocabulary, grammar, or suggestions for getting some input and practice, we offer two suggestions, Anki and Quizlet. Anki being more sophisticated, very common among language learners, and Quizlet much more intuitive and easy to use. Whatever you prefer, just make sure to put sentences that you are learning, that you have in the lesson notes, in some sort of flashcard app so you can review them. And if you are interested in getting this Spanish Beginner Kit with all of these suggestions and also study template and recommended resources, well, you can find the link in the description of this video below. It's completely free. And it's really a perfect companion to this course for beginners we are offering here on YouTube. And that's it for today's lesson on some questions and ways of asking for clarification in a conversation. The next one will be about cognates, the last one of Module C of our course for beginners. If you want to get notified when that lesson is published, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell. I hope you find this lesson useful. Soy Alejandro de Key Spanish y nos vemos en clase.